YT Decoy versus the 2019 Turbo Levo. Since the Decoy video went live and that bike was launched a couple of weeks ago, I've had so many questions and emails and messages just about the YT Decoy versus the 2019 Turbo Levo. So it seems that for a lot of people that are interested in buying an e-bike right now, they're the two bikes that people are really looking at, and they're both fantastic bikes. But what I want to do is just talk about the two individual bikes, their pros and their cons, and hopefully give you a little bit more information on which one might be the right bike for you. So I rode the all-new YT Decoy a couple of weeks ago. I did 2 full days of riding in the mountains in the south of France, and it was totally epic. I loved it. I love the bike. Check out my video that I've done on it because I go into way more detail. But for the two bikes that we're talking about, there is quite a bit of difference between them, to be totally honest with you. Their intended purpose is slightly different, but has quite a lot of crossover. So I want to cover a few topics on these two bikes because it's just quite interesting to have a debate about it, and I hope that this can give you a little bit more information on what bike is the one for you and what I think might be suitable depending on the type of terrain that you ride. So first of all, I want to start with value or cost or price or whatever you want to refer to it as, because we're looking at two bikes that represent different areas of value. But with value, there's something that I want to mention really, because direct-to-consumer brands are always going to have a price advantage just due to the nature of how their business works compared to a traditional retailer. And that means that when you buy a bike from a direct-to-consumer brand, whether it's YT, whoever it is, you're always going to get, well, in the majority of cases, a cheaper bike or a better value bike compared to you buying it through a dealer. So when you buy a bike, you are going to get it cheaper, but there's some compromises that you are going to have to make, and for a lot of people that might not be an issue at all. For some people it may be. So the difference between a direct-to-consumer brand versus a brand like the Specialized Levo, which you buy in a bike store, is when you buy a bike from a Specialized dealer, so let's say you go and check out your local dealer and you're looking at the Levos, you get individual one-on-one conversation usually, and they'll be able to tell you all about the bike, and you might be able to sit on it, probably take it for a little test ride and learn a little bit more about all the different bikes within the range. That's cool. A lot of people really like that individual one-on-one approach when it comes to buying something, because they are a lot of money, let's be honest. None of these are cheap bikes, but we'll talk about value in a minute. The other thing is that when you're buying a bike from a dealer, part of the purchase cost that's baked into that bike price is the support that you're going to get afterwards. So if you're lucky to live near a really great dealer, I live near Berkshire Cycles, and I've had 3 issues with my 2019 Levo. Arguably, you shouldn't have any, but hey, stuff breaks. I was able to go there and get it fixed within like 15 to 20 minutes. They're super quick, and that's really good because I could carry on riding. If you get a direct-to-consumer bike and it goes wrong, you can't just rock up at a shop. You're going to need to work out a way of getting service, and for YT that's via back to YT directly or via a Shimano service centre. So it's going to be a little bit different, and that's one of the advantages of buying a bike from a dealer, is you get that local and usually really good, like outstanding level of service. So when we're comparing bike prices and value, it's not always comparing apples to apples, for example, because there's a difference in price and what you're getting is slightly different. However, the Specialized bikes are pretty expensive even though they're from a dealer. So let's take a look at value of these two bikes. The YT is incredibly priced. Like £4,199 for the base model, but it's carbon, it's got an aluminium rear triangle, it's got RockShox suspension, but you're getting an outstanding package for £4,199. The next one is £4,999, which has Fox components, Fox fork and Fox DPX2 rear shock, and it also has a full carbon frame, so the front triangle and the rear triangle is carbon. And then the £599 is carbon and carbon wheels and Fox factory fork and shock. Now, there's quite a lot of stuff, but that represents outstanding value for money. So I've tried to compare both the price of the Levo. So if you look at a £4,000 Levo, it's basically an entry level model. It doesn't even have a dropper post. Has quite basic suspension, like really basic, to be honest with you. Might suit you if you're trail riding, but you might wanna, or you might look at changing that. In fact, a lot of people are buying the base model and paying extra to upgrade. So that Levo is £4,000. For £4,200, you're getting a carbon bike and good components pretty much all round on that base level Decoy. It starts to get interesting when we look at the carbon model Levo, which is £5,999 for the comp carbon, and that's got a Fox 34 fork, it's got a Fox DPS shock on. They're not anywhere near the top of the range in terms of Fox components. They do the job, they do it quite well, but that bike is £6,000. Carbon front triangle, aluminium rear triangle. If you compare it to the £6,000 Decoy, that's Fox factory, full carbon, even carbon wheels, you can start to compare a £6,000 YT and a £6,000 Specialized. Now, just going back to what we said earlier, a £6,000 Specialized means that if anything goes wrong, you can go back to the dealer and get it fixed. The YT, you're gonna have to think about keeping the box, finding a Shimano service center. If it's a battery or something else, it's probably gonna need to go back to YT, but I've heard that YT's support is really, really good. So just a different way of doing it. A lot of people aren't bothered by it. It's down to you really to decide what you think. Personally, I kind of like being able to go and see my local dealer if I've got any issues, but you know, everyone's different. So the value piece can work out slightly differently because, hey, they don't have the overheads, they're shipping it straight to you, and obviously the cost is much, much lower. The second piece I want to talk about is what are you going to use it to ride? Because that is pretty important. Now, they're both able to do from cross country to real chunky enduro, but they'll both excel differently in certain areas. So the YT will be really, really good at gravity-based stuff. So when I was riding it in France, it was kind of technical, chunkier stuff, downhill descents, and it is super stable. The geometry lends itself to that type of terrain. The 29er at the front, the 27.5 at the rear, real long reach for me for taller riders. It was awesome. For that type of terrain, it is outstanding. It's built for big hits. It's got 160mm fork travel, it's got 165mm travel at the rear. It's a bit slacker than the Levo, it's 65 degrees, the Levo is 66, and hey, 1 degree, it does make quite a bit of difference on the way that the bike handles as well. So the YT excels at gravity-based, boosting it back up to the top of the trail, blasting it back down, but that doesn't mean to say it can't do cross country, it can't do trail, because absolutely it can do all of that. The Levo is the most playful bike I've ridden still on the trails. Its head angle, its suspension kinematics, it is so agile and moves about so quick that it is really, really well suited for trail. If you live near a place with more trail centres and forest sections and, you know, just regular kind of mountain biking, the Levo absolutely excels at all of that. It will still be able to smash it downhill and do some pretty steep enduro stuff. I mean, it's a 150mm travel bike, but the YT is a little bit more forgiving. It's easier to ride because you get more confidence in that platform with it being a bit longer, a bit slacker, and having more travel. If you put the YT on a trail, I don't think it will feel as playful as the Levo. In fact, I rode the Levo yesterday and it is just outstanding to ride on a trail. So there is always crossover, you know, they're both going to be able to do both of those tasks, no issues. But the Levo is a better all-round trail bike and the YT is a better gravity orientated bike, just because of the nature of how they're built and the geometry. So they are quite different bikes. The motors on them, the Shimano motor on the YT is not as refined as the Bros Mag S on the 2019 Levo. Still got the Shimano kind of noise. Shimano's not the quietest motor. It's noisier, it's more on off. Certainly in boost mode you get an initial, when you put the pedal down, an initial push, and then as you hit the 15.5 mile limit, it is quite aggressive in the way that it stops delivering the power. It's quite digital, quite on off. I do hope Shimano can refine that, because it is only software really, but it is not as smooth or as natural feeling as the Bros Mag S. In the Levo, it is just so smooth, so natural, quieter. It's not silent. Yeah. It's louder than the old Levos, in fact, because it's got more power, but it is the most refined motor in all of the motors that I've ridden, and I really like it. It's a little bit more powerful. It's 90 Newton meters of torque versus 70 in the YT, and I just think it's a better motor. The YT has the Shimano, which is good. It is a really good motor. The little screen on it's really neat. It's just not as natural feeling, and I like a bike to feel as natural as possible. But with the YT, I found that I was just using it to boost me up to the top of the trail again, and just, you know, hit it down, and you forget about the motor completely when you're going down because you're having so much fun riding it. So the YT, the design of it is super slick, isn't it? The 29er front, 27.5 at the rear with the plus tyre for loads of grip for climbing, 65-degree head angle, the suspension design, the 4-link suspension is just outstanding. It gives you so much confidence when you're blasting it down a descent. The design of the frame, I don't think is quite as refined as the 2019 Levo. If you look at the Levo, the battery is fully integrated inside of the frame. So what that does is it gives you that proper clean, super clean look on the outside, the way that the battery slides in from the bottom. And I've never removed the battery to charge. I always charge it in the bike. It is a remarkable piece of design and engineering from Specialized. The way that it's totally concealed within the frame, other than the small opening at the bottom. And what that's done is it's meant that the weight of the Levo can stay really low. They shaved around 800 grams off the frame and the housing for the motor, the design of that, over the previous generation. The YT, not quite as refined. The battery still is integrated, but it's part of the frame, so it makes up the bottom part of the frame and the design. So it looks a little bit more bolted on when you look closely. If you look at the pictures now, you can see the real clean design and the clean integration on the Levo. The Decoy looks a little bit more like a previous generation Levo. But hey, that's only when you get close. When you take a step back and look at them, they both look super sweet. I mean, the Levo is a little bit more curved. The YT is a bit more straight. The lines are super clean. The way that they've integrated the wiring and all the cables, especially on the one with the Di2, is outstanding. They've designed it to look just like a mountain bike, so when you're riding it you can only see like 3 cables. It just is so slick. So intended purpose, gravity orientated, so if that's more of what you do, and be honest, you know, I don't do as much of that as I would like to. I don't live near super rocky terrain or big kind of bike parks. So if you do, or you're going to be riding more of that, the YT might be better for you. But if you live near more trail orientated stuff and you're still going to get the occasional rocky descent, or you're going to take it to a big trip, the Levo is well capable of doing all of that. It just isn't quite as comfortable. The travel is 150 versus 160, so the head angle's a little bit steeper, so you don't get the same confidence that you get on the YT. So if you ride in it for 90% of the time on trail centers and that kind of stuff, the Levo is probably the bike for you. But if you're riding more gravity orientated stuff, the YT is probably the one for you. There's a hell of a lot of crossover. They can both do both, but if I was riding more rocky stuff, steep stuff, gnarly stuff, steps, drops, I would get the YT. The battery on both YT have got a 540 watt hour battery. They will bring out a 700 watt hour battery, so you can upgrade to that at a later date. They've not confirmed costs or anything, but essentially you're going to be able to trade in your battery, which is really cool. The Levo comes with a 500 watt hour battery. You can buy a 700 watt hour battery. It's like £1,000 or something. It's really expensive. They're both using the latest cells, the 21700 cells that you get in like the Teslas and those kind of cars. So it's a great cell, the most up-to-date cell that you're going to get. I actually got really good range on the YT. I was really surprised. We did around 36 kilometers. I didn't get the amount that we climbed, unfortunately, but when I'd got back, I had 3 bars, so like 60% remaining, which was incredible, I thought, for 36 kilometers, considering I used it in boost a lot. I don't quite get that on the Levo, weirdly. Take it as you will. It's your mileage always varies. It can depend on lots of things: temperature, terrain, weight, all that stuff. So in terms of which is the right one for you, I mean, honestly, they're both outstanding bikes. They're the pinnacle of e-bike design, and it's such an exciting time to be buying an e-bike right now. YT have just put a bomb out there and so many people are interested in it, and rightly so. It's such a good brand. It is such a good bike. The Levo came out in September last year and has sold out pretty much everywhere. It's still really difficult to get hold of. Either one of the bikes is going to be fantastic. So, e-bometer. Let's put the YT on the e-bometer, E for e-bike. Now, if you haven't seen this before, I'm just rating really crudely how fun are they and what's the value. So low fun, high fun, and fun for me is everything. How does it make you feel when you look at it? How does it make you feel when you ride it? Does it make you smile? Is it good fun? And value, poor value, so is it really expensive and you don't get much for your money, or is it excellent value? The sweet spot being up here. If we can get a bike here, then you know it's just a banging bike. So YT Decoy. Value is, it's an expensive bike, but it is outstanding value for money. Carbon, Fox, Di2 for the £6,000 one. Value, if your bike goes wrong, you know, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get fixed rather than rocking up at your bike shop. So we have to consider that with value as well. I think the value still is outstanding. It's going to go high. And how fun is it? Well, it is really fun. I was able to tackle stuff that I don't normally tackle. I had a hell of a good time on it. I don't know how agile it'll feel on regular trails, so I'm not sure it feels quite as playful and as agile as a Levo, but because you get that ability to hit some real chunky stuff, it is a real good fun bike to ride. So I'm gonna put it, oh, we're getting high, aren't we? We're getting close to that sweet spot up there. So I'm gonna put it here. Maybe not quite as fun and playful. Value is outstanding. It's doing well, isn't it? One other bike that I did test a couple of weeks ago, Grape G6, really made for like real high-tech stuff. So not necessarily a bike for like proper mountain bikers. Value, quite good value, full carbon, 700 watt hour battery. I didn't have the most amount of fun. It's not very long. It's a 67-degree head angle. It was fairly difficult for me to ride. So for me, it's gonna go about there. Anyway, all the bikes are gonna be added to this. So to summarize, both are outstanding bikes. You are gonna get an amazing bike that you're gonna be able to do pretty much anything on. The Levo 29er, an amazing trail orientated bike, can still tackle pretty much anything. I mean, it's 150mm travel. That was a downhill bike not many years ago. 66-degree head angle, an amazing package, really well integrated, great support from a dealer, great service from Specialized. I've had a few problems and they've been brilliant. And for me, as an everyday bike, I would probably pick that for me. The YT Super Enduro, just gravity based, amazing fun, and absolutely outstanding bike in terms of balance, suspension kinematics, design, look, forward thinking around the 700 watt-hour battery, being able to go into it as well. Outstanding value for money. I mean, you're getting a hell of a lot of bike for that $4 grand or $6 grand or whichever one you go for. I think the sweet spot is the 4999 version, which is the Pro. It's got Fox 36 with the Grip 2 damper. It's got a Fox DPX2 shock, which is basically the factory without Kashima. And for $5 grand, that is my absolute best buy. That's the one that I would go for if I was buying. So there you go. I hope that cleared it up a little bit. I guess whichever bike you get, there is a wait. The YT's not out for a couple of months. It's going back and back. The models are selling out. The Specialized Levo is so popular. It's been popular since the release. So they're both awesome. I hope it gave you a little bit more insight. If you do have any questions, pop them down below and I will do my best to answer them. All right, thanks for watching. I will catch up with you soon. Subscribe to be kept up to date with all the latest electric bike content and I will see you soon.